Marriage is a beautiful thing when you go into it with the right foundation and the right partner. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people have skipped the proper foundation and kind of missed on the right partner part. And a lot of people have experienced bad marriages, or a lot of people have grown up in household witnessing bad marriages. And it's left a foul taste in a lot of people's mouths. And we're living in a time where less and less people are getting married. But despite that, there's still a lot of people who want to get married, and you may be one of those people. Now, even if in this moment in time, you're like, nah, I don't really care for marriage either, just understand that sometimes that changes, right? And one of the reasons why I'm creating this video is that you may meet a man, or you may be dealing with a man as we speak, and whether you came in with the desire of marriage, you developed the desire of marriage, one of those came about, and he's resistant. And I've had a lot of women coming to me asking me, why are these men not wanting to get married? What should I do? Should I just leave them alone? All these different things. But I think it's important to understand why so many men are afraid of getting married or hesitant to get married, okay? Because I believe that by you understanding it, you'll be able to more efficiently address it in your specific situation. And sometimes just properly addressing it can fix the problem and allow two people to move forward in that direction. So I want to give you all the assistance necessary to possibly make it happen when your time comes. So whether you're there now or not, it's important that you understand this topic, okay? So let's get to it. One of the big reasons, and I'm sure you probably already know, one of the big reasons why a lot of men or a specific man is afraid to get married are the financial ramifications of marriage, okay? Now, you've probably heard me joke many times before that even men with no money are scared about losing their money, okay? Even the broke ones are worried about losing their finances. It's that real of an issue. And though I make a joke of it, it's a serious thing, because even if he's not in that position right now, if he knows he's working towards better, right, and his desire is to be in a better position, then marriage is something that he still has to be mindful of, because he knows most men hear the stories of other men losing half of their wealth and all these different things when it comes to marriage. As well as if kids are involved, the alimony, child support, all these different things. Now, I know there are some of these men saying they don't want to get married, but they're still out here having kids. That's a whole different issue that has to be discussed, but we're not going to get too deep into that right now. Just focusing on the guy who finances is a concern. So whether we like it or not, it's understandable for anyone to have that concern. And I say anyone because, listen, we're living in a day where a lot of times it's the woman making more money, all right? Or coming into the situation with more assets. So she should be mindful too. I don't think there's anything wrong with everyone being mindful of the financial ramifications of marriage. However, I think one of the easiest ways, in my opinion, to solve this problem potentially is for everyone to be cool with a prenup. Now, before y'all run off, because some of y'all get triggered by the word prenup, okay? Hear me out. Let me make clear that I think everybody should sign a prenup. I don't care what your situation is. I think everybody should. Because at the end of the day, to make this a very simple explanation, when you get married, you are signing a contract. That contract is laid out by the state. So why not override that by having your own contract that lays out how you and your partner will handle things just in case things go left? Now, I know many people, they feel like, well, if you do a prenup, you're planning for divorce. Listen, you get car insurance. Are you planning to crash? No. You get house insurance. Are you planning for it to burn down? No. A lot of times we're not planning or hoping or waiting for these things to happen, but they happen. Unfortunately, there's been millions of people who went into their marriage with the most positive outlook, thinking I'm going to live happily ever after with this person. And even if we could argue, well, there were signs in this, regardless, they came into it like that. And before you know it, boom, everything goes left and things get really messy. And one of the best things about the prenup is that this is the time for you to be able to get the best favorable terms with your partner. See, by doing a prenup, when you guys are at the stage of still being in love with each other or being very happy with each other, wanting to share life together, this is where people are going to be the most reasonable, the most flexible, the most understanding. If we wait, till later, and then God forbid, this thing goes to divorce, at this point, people hate each other in some situations. There's resentment, there's animosity, and now everybody wants to play hardball, and be difficult, and it becomes so much messier. So it would be wise to save everyone that potential, because again, we're still hoping it doesn't go that way, but that potential headache by dealing with it in the beginning. But going back to the point of the man being afraid because of financial ramifications, so if you're dealing with a man and that's his fear, because I've had situations where woman meets a man, he's extremely wealthy, very successful. She wants them to get married. He's hesitant. And I'm like, listen, a lot of men are fearful of bringing up prenup to the woman that they love because they've seen so many women take offense to it, take issue with it. So they're trying not to, but at the same time, if that's what's getting in the way of him being willing to marry you, it's like, listen, let's just don't wait for him. Just throw that out there. Say, hey, is this a concern of yours? If this is, let me put your mind at ease. I'm okay with this. I'm okay with a prenup. Let's do it. It's cool. Let's make sure everything is fair on both sides. And that right there could completely remove the roadblock, and those two people might be able to get married. Now, I'm not saying it's an automatic fix for every person who talks about money being their concern. I am saying it can fix for many. It can be a fix for a lot of people, okay? So understand that issue. It's a reasonable issue, okay? And again, it's beneficial for everybody, man or woman. All right. So another big reason why men are afraid, or a man is afraid to get married, is his concerns of the sex going downhill after marriage, okay? Now, listen, I'm going to be real with y'all, and some of you may not be fully aware of this as women, but I've spoken to tons of married men who all share the same story of sex going downhill after marriage. Now, I know many of you will quickly rebut by saying, hey, listen, kids, life, what do they expect? Or even let's just say that if it goes as far as she has to contribute financially, she's cleaning, of course she's not going to have as much time or availability for intimacy. I get it. That doesn't change the fact that for a man who's looking at the prospect of, okay, if I get married, one of the things that he values a lot could diminish heavily, well, that's going to cause a lot of hesitation and fear. And the reality is that when you speak to those same men, again, for them, it's like, yeah, before they got married to this same woman, before they got married, sex was in abundance, okay? Once the marriage happened, some it's immediate, some it's a slow decline that eventually plummets severely, right? Either way, it goes downhill. And so it's an important thing to discuss in advance. Now, the discussion cannot stop at you just telling a man, oh yeah, when y'all get married. Because I say this because I cannot tell you how many men, and I've heard women say it, they'll say stuff like, oh yeah, when I get married, I'm going to do this and that, and he ain't going to have no worries and all this stuff, right? And it's like, nah, it didn't play out that way. So it's not just having that discussion of saying, oh no, I'm going to keep it up. It's really discussing what you even need to be able to keep it up. I think one of the problems that we have in society and relationships today is we're not being honest enough and transparent enough about what both sides need to be able to show up in the relationship the way that their partner needs them to. Okay? So it's like, listen, for example, you know, if for a man to, there's a lot of men who, if they're not getting respect at home, certain things are going to start to fall off. I'm not validating and saying it's okay for them to let his duties fall by the wayside because he feels like he's not getting a certain level of respect, but it's the reality of what happens. Same way on the flip side, there's a lot of women where if she's not getting enough non-sexual intimacy, affection, conversation, him showing her value outside of just the bedroom, well, for a lot of women, that will trigger a strong drop off in her sexual availability to him, okay? But he doesn't know that in many cases, or he doesn't understand that correlation because when dating, that doesn't come up a lot of times. When dating, again, there's a lot of excitement and just happiness to be together. And of course, this is speaking to those who have crossed that line of intimacy before marriage. And this is not saying you should. This is just the reality that it happens. When they were engaging before marriage, she wasn't saying to him, hey, I need you to be pouring into me emotionally in these ways for me to be able to keep wanting to pour back into you physically, okay? So by the time they get married, if that discussion is not had, and he's conditioned to thinking that you're just happy to have it because you like it as much as he does, well, that is the beginning of the end. And that is where the disconnect is created. And then if you try to discuss it with him after the fact, after marriage, he's less receptive to it. Because to him, it's like, oh, you're just making stuff up now. You're just being spiteful because this wasn't a problem all these years and now all of a sudden it's a problem. So it's important that we talk about these things in the dating phase, in the boyfriend-girlfriend phase, okay? About what each other needs to show up for each other physically, as well as, you know, I've said this, many of you have heard me say it if you watch my other videos, listen, you got to be honest with him if it ain't that good to you, okay? I mean, listen, there's a lot of women, I make jokes, but it's a serious thing where a lot of women meet a guy, they really like the man, he's a good man, but intimacy is subpar, okay? I've used harsher words in the past, I'm trying to be nice. It is subpar, it's not up to the level that she would really like, but because she likes him so much, even loves him, she just deals with it, right? She just goes along, but not just goes along, she acts like she loves it, and it's great. And unfortunately, again, you get too far down the line feeding that lie to him, it makes it harder to course correct. Not impossible, but very difficult, okay? So you want to nip that in the bud as early as possible. You want to create an environment where you guys can communicate with each other and give each other constructive criticism, okay? And show each other how you can be better for each other in all the ways that's going to feed this relationship, so to speak. All right. So one way or another, and let me, this kind of hit in my spirit, so I need to say this. Some of you may respond to this by saying, why does it have to be so important? Sex shouldn't be such a big part of the relationship. There's more to the relationship than that, so on and so forth. You got to stop doing that. If that's you, you got to stop doing that. Maybe it's not that important to you, and that's perfectly fine if it's not. But if you're marrying or you desire to marry a man who it is important to, you have to be willing to respect that. The same way as if a man says to me, why does my wife need me to talk to her? Why does she need all this communication? I don't see what the big deal is. And it's like, yo, bruh, it might not be important to you, okay? But it's important to her. And if you want to marry this woman, if you want to share your life with this woman, and you want to create a healthy, positive, loving environment, then you have to respect what she needs. So both parties have to respect it rather than, because it doesn't rank high on your list of needs or priorities. You think, well, it shouldn't be that important to them. That's a huge mistake. Don't want you to make it. All right, so let's keep this thing going. And another huge reason why a man is afraid of getting married is because he's already had a bad experience with marriage. So, of course, this is speaking to the men who have been married before and are currently divorced. And for a lot of people, and again, this can happen to women as well, you know, they go to that marriage, it was rough, and they're just like, yo, I'm not doing this again. All right. But the reality is that someone not wanting to be married again does not mean someone does not want to be in a long-term relationship again. And I know for some people that can be like, well, that's silly, because if we can be in this long-term relationship and essentially carry on as married individuals, well, why can't we then just go ahead and get married? Okay? Which I don't necessarily disagree with. But what I'm telling you for this specific point is that sometimes because they got PTSD essentially when it comes to marriage. And to them, there's something about once crossing that line, signing that paper, going through that process that they feel brings about the downfall of the relationship. So again, like there's a lot of people who their experience, and specifically we'll say men, their experiences when they were boyfriend and girlfriend with this woman, they was like everything was cool, which was why they were even willing to marry her, right? Everything was cool. They was happy with things. Doesn't mean it was perfect. No, you know, there's, of course, things could always be better, but they was good. So they get married. And then once again, it's like everything just falls off. And it's not just the intimacy as we talked about. It's a lot of different things that start to just go left. And so to them, their frame of reference now is, oh, as long as I don't marry the woman, everything will be cool. Because everything was cool before I did it, but it went bad afterwards. You see? Now, that individual needs to heal. All right? That man, if I'm speaking to that man, I'm going to encourage him to address that deeper issue, that hurt, that disappointment, right? And to understand it wasn't simply getting married that caused problems. But if you marry the wrong person, whether he realizes or not how that may have been the wrong person, or to be fair, if he doesn't understand how he has to show up in the marriage for a partner, then yeah, that can cause things to go left. But it isn't simply getting married. Now, I will, if we're going to keep it real here, there's a lot of men who, what they're experiencing with a woman is a woman trying to be on her best behavior because she wants to get married. And then once the goal is reached, she's like, okay, I can let my true self out. I can let loose now. I can act a fool now because I'm good. I'm secure. I'm locked in, right? That does happen, whether y'all believe it or not. It does happen. It reminds me of where I remember I was speaking to a woman. She was, let's say, in her late 40s, and she wanted to get married. And this woman stays in the gym. And I forgot how we got into discussion, but essentially she made a comment like, man, I can't wait to get married so I can stop going to the gym. And I said, wait, what? I thought you loved the gym. Like, you're not going to the gym because you believe in working out? She's like, I'm just trying to find me a man. And once I get the man, I'm good. And I mean, I'm lucky that she can be open with me and tell me that. But I know she's not telling the men that she's dating that, right? And she's not the only woman that thinks like that. And again, for her, it was the gym, but there's other things that some women will do just to get to the quote unquote finish line. And then once they cross it, that's it. Now, does that again still mean it's marriage's fault? It's the fault of the unit? No, right? A man has to do his due diligence and understand the type of woman he's dealing with, what drives her, what is her true character, so he understands. But for a lot of men, they're very logical. And it's like, if you just checked off the boxes, the resume's looking good, they're like, oh, okay, we're good. They're not thinking I have to dive even deeper to figure out, is this really who she is, So all that to say, that previous bad experience can be very traumatizing. And if you come across a man who that is his reasoning for that, again, I think encouraging counseling is good. And just remember this: whenever you want, if you want to encourage someone to do counseling, you got to make sure you've done it for yourself, okay? And that you can show the fruit of that process. That you can show, okay, look how it helped me, or if you go at that time, look how it's making me a better partner, a better woman, all these things. So then they'll be more inspired. If you just simply say, oh, well, you got problems and you need to go get a therapy, he's probably not going to want to hear that. And he's probably not going to go just for that reason, right? So this one is probably a very tough one to conquer. And it's not your responsibility to get him to heal from that. I just want you, again, to be aware that this is an obstacle that sometimes you might face. All right, so we got a few more to go. But before I continue, real quick, I want to give you the opportunity to get your hand on join my special coaching program. It's basically you having access to me for a whole year where you're going to be able to get your personal questions answered by me via some live Q&As that I do. It's a group setting, but you're going to be able to get attended to as well as you'll have access to my course that teaches you how to heal, tap into your feminine energy, meet relationship-minded men, find your purpose, and so much more. Take advantage. Go to receivingmyblessings.com or click the link in the description or in the comment section. Now, with that said, another huge reason why a man is afraid to get married is loss of freedom, okay? Now, I want to phrase it like this. I think that when a woman hears a man's afraid to lose his freedom, she automatically thinks, oh, he wants to be out in these streets. he wants to be out here acting a fool, entertaining other women, and all this other stuff. Now, are there some men like that? Absolutely, no doubt. But are there other men who it's not because they want to cheat on you or mess with other women and things of that nature, but let's just say, for example, he's a guy. Some guys are very social guys. All right, like I'm very introverted. Some guys are very extroverted. So the guy who's extroverted naturally wants to get out the house more, right? He may enjoy hanging out at the bar with the boys. He may enjoy game night somewhere, whatever the case may be, right? These are the things that really make him happy and he takes joy in. And what happens is, unfortunately, because these types of spaces are always viewed as, oh, you're going to get yourself in trouble, or you're using it as an avenue to mess with other women, well, a lot of women are going to shut it down. They're going to be like, well, no, you can't go here. You can't hang out with your boys if they're not married as well. You can't be having game night and staying out late, like all these things. Now, I'm not saying anyone's perspective on this is unreasonable. We're not even going to get into all that. I'm simply saying that, unfortunately, for the man who wants that freedom to get out and go and do the things he was doing as a single man or as a man who is in a relationship, that will cause him hesitation to then get married, because most men know, oh yeah, you're going to have to check in. You might be on lockdown. Depending on the woman you're dealing with, it's a whole different ball game. And so I do think that there has to be a discussion with a man if you're dating him. And again, this is one of his fears. I would argue this is one of those things that he probably won't come out and just say in many cases, because again, the fear is the woman will automatically assume this is about him trying to be inappropriate, okay, in the relationship. So he may not just come out and say it. So it's one of those things where you may have to kind of be like, hey, are you the type of guy that likes to go out? And even paying attention to that, if that is what he is as your boyfriend or as your friend, because some situations are best friends and then they end up falling in love and want to get married. you got to ask yourself, you can't go into this thinking, oh, well, now because we're going to get married, I expect you to be a completely different person. You see what I'm saying? Like, no, instead, you got to say, okay, I know who he is. I know how he likes to get down. Am I cool with this? Can I accept this? Right? And listen, there are some women out there who wouldn't have a problem with some of these things. And to me, those types of individuals should probably be the ones to get together. Whereas the ones who are on the completely different ends of the spectrum when it comes to this issue, they might want to think twice because they're probably going to have some conflict. And even and let's just say the man, because he has fallen in love with this woman and he wants to be with her, he's like, hey, nah, like, I don't want to lose her, so I'm going to stop going to these things. The problem is, if those things truly made him happy and brought him joy, it may lead to a level of being miserable, being unhappy, being depressed, because now he's suppressing himself. And my thing is, we don't want to align ourselves with someone who then has to suppress themselves. We want to be able to embrace who they truly are, just as they should embrace who we truly are. We should be able to find either middle ground or just be completely on the same page together, and then we can move forward. Otherwise, it's gonna cause a problem in some way, shape, or form. And let me just say again, I've seen it happen in reverse. I've seen women who are very extroverted, love social gatherings, love parties and things like that, get with a guy who's super conservative, isn't cool with any of that stuff, and she tries to fit into that box to make him happy, only to make herself miserable. Like, you can only suppress your true self for so long. And eventually it becomes a problem and the whole thing will then fall apart. So discuss the issue, be mindful of the issue. But yes, freedom is definitely at the forefront of many men's minds when it comes to whether or not they should get married. All right, so another big reason why a man would be afraid to get married is that there are currently unresolved issues in the relationship. So this is specifically for those of you ladies who are in a relationship right now. Maybe it's been years, and this man's still unwilling to cross that line to get married. Now, listen, I'm going to be real with y'all. This might hurt, but I love y'all, and I want to always be honest. Some cases, a lot of cases, that man just has no intention of marrying you. He just does not see you as the one for him, and nothing's going to change that. Now, here's how you can have a great level of certainty if it's that, or if it's that there's an issue that just needs to be resolved. And that is by addressing all potential issues. Because if you sit down with this man, and you got to be open-minded, because if you go to this man and you're like, okay, so are there things you're unhappy with? Are there issues you're concerned about? And let's just say he says, well, I feel like you always have an attitude. And if your response right there, well, I got an attitude because you don't be doing blah, 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 blah. Like, if you're just going to basically hit him right back, right, and not take any ownership of your attitude, you're not going to get anywhere. Now, that doesn't mean you can't point out what he may be doing that you feel contributes to your attitude. But the way to do that is by first saying, okay, you know what? I hear you. I need to work on this. I will work being better on how I talk to you, how I respond, my attitude, boom, boom, boom. But I also just need you to understand that it can be difficult at times when you're doing certain things. I'm not using that as an excuse because I still need to do better, but I need you to be mindful of that because, you know, if you're going to keep doing X, Y, Z, over time, it's going to be difficult for me not to be bothered, not to be upset, all these things. So you see, you're still acknowledging, you're still taking accountability, and you're still shedding light on his contribution to the issue. But you can't just validate your behavior by making it about his. That will destroy everything. And if the shoe was on the other foot, you would feel the same exact way. Okay? So now, if you're able to successfully address these things and everything has been corrected and you are showing up as your best self and this man still doesn't want to marry, and we're assuming it's not any of the other things we discussed about, right? Or if it is, we've discussed those two, resolve. And he's still not trying to do. All right, then this is where you may have heard me say a quote before that goes, you'll never be good enough for the wrong person. So just walk away. So it's like, listen, when you know you're being your best self and it's still not good enough, that doesn't mean you are not good enough as a woman. It means you are dealing with the wrong man. Y'all are not the right fit for each other. All right. And there's nothing left for you to do to change that except to accept this is just not going to work out. So in that case, we move on. But it becomes clearer and easier to do that when we first address any lingering issues. Because it's hard to want to move forward into marriage when people already view marriage as very difficult, as coming with certain downfalls, if the person knows there's a problem that already currently exists. And that's why I do think that if anyone is entertaining marriage, premarital counseling is just the way to go. I just think that's important. You know, it's like doing a checkup before you guys take that step. And there's a lot that may be discovered. You know, for some people, it'll be a quick little thing. For others, it may be a heavy process that exposes a lot. But all of it is necessary. So take that in consideration and do your best to move forward on the right track. All right. So I want to give a bonus reason why a man would be afraid of getting married. And even more specifically, married to you. And this may sound strange to some, but let me break it down. The other bonus reason why is because he doesn't understand why you even need it to begin with, okay? Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I've literally have had men in the gym, through client sessions, at events, ask me the question, why is it important to get married? Why does a woman even need marriage? Okay? Now, I'm going to give you my perspective that I share with these men. You may have your own reasons. Either way, it's important, I think, that you express these types of things to the man you're dating or will date and want to potentially marry, because him having an understanding of it can help in his willingness to embrace it, because then it'll make some sense. So let me try to not make this too long. Let me say it like this. The reality is that from the beginning of time, one of the big purposes of marriage, one, is that it provides the woman security while it provided the man access. All right? For a lot of men, to be able to have someone they can lay down with, have someone who can help raise their kids, hold down a household, they had to marry a woman. To gain that access to those qualities, to those benefits, marriage was the pathway for a very long time. For the women, for them to have someone essentially covering, right? Someone that can provide for them, provide a home, not have to stay up under their parents if that's their situation, to be able to raise a family, all these things. And again, security, because the last thing you want is, okay, man gets with you, like how it is in relationships, and then out of nowhere he can break up and be gone, and now you're left with nothing. Marriage provided a greater level of security. Now, unfortunately, because of how things have progressed in this world, a lot of women have, at least when it comes to the security of finances, they've achieved that on their own. And for a lot of men, they're getting access without having to do the marriage part. That used to not exist, but now that exists in great abundance, right? Which has made people, that's added to why people are less willing or don't see the need for marriage, because they're getting everything outside of it, right? But for a woman, what I say to these men is that, listen, that level of security, it's an extra layer of security that can allow the woman to feel more comfortable, at ease, and to truly, completely open up and sustainably. Now, of course, again, we know there's a lot of bad marriages, a lot of bad experiences. So for some men, it's like, well, I'm seeing these men not getting this extra boost in their relationship by marrying this woman. So why should I think I should do it? And I have to help them understand, listen, but that's an issue of who those two people are and what's driving their union rather than the issue it being marriage itself, right? But the bottom line is, it's that security, okay? And it's that security that brings about a greater level of peace. Now, yes, we all know marriages can still end in divorce, but we also know that it is harder to get a divorce than it is to break up with your partner. You know, I always say it's crazy how people use divorce rates to diminish marriage. But if we quantified the breakup rate, it would make the divorce rate look like child's play. And so no one uses the breakup rate to dismiss relationships, right? So it's like, to me, let's just look at it for what it is. It is, of course, there's the spiritual component. And if that man is a believer, then it's also it's the union that God has created that is going to be best and bring out the best in both individuals, bring out the best in his purpose, bring out the best in that woman's purpose, being able to come together. So of course there is that as well for those who are believers. But I also think that him understanding the security that this provides may help some men be more receptive to why you would need it as a woman. But at the end of the day, I just want everyone to receive what is truly best for them, what God has for them, and to be able to experience healthy, amazing relationships as well as marriages. Watching this video, I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on He's a Really Good Man if he has these 5 traits. Listens to you and then executes. He carries out what you told him. When you provide him that information and he does something positive with it, that's still, to me, that's even better